And Rick Unger here, filling in for the vacationing Steve Malzberg, joined by my friend Scottie Nell Hughes, news director over at the Tea Party News Network, and Tom Doherty, partner at high-stakes, mega-important public strategy firm Mecury. I want to switch the topic a little bit at this point. What is up? We started last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago now, with Dr. Keith Ablow, a psychiatrist over at Fox News, making the comment on a TV show that the First Lady could lose a few pounds. Well, that got some things going on. Is that really the right way to behave? Now we have Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, New York senator, coming out and acknowledging that over the years, a number of U.S. senators have had comments to make about her weight when she was just after having her baby, and even when she maybe wanted to lose some weight whenever she felt like doing it. Or as she put it, when she started to feel it wasn't healthy for her, she decided to respond to it. But what is the deal with these elected officials making these snotty, snide remarks to female elected officers about their weight? Scottie, what is up with that?
Well, wham. What else would you expect? You sat here and created this politically correct society in our schools, and guess what? People eventually grow up. And so now I think it's going into Congress.
Are you defending the senators for doing it?
No, I'm not defending. What I'm saying is get over it, folks. Why don't you solve the issues like a $17 trillion deficit that we have, close our borders, the numerous issues we have right now. For you to be sitting here complaining about someone's weight or to be complaining that somebody said something about you, go buy a therapist, get a bar of chocolate, and you will be fine. Get over it.
Yeah, but what do you do when the therapist is the one who's saying the stupid stuff that our parents taught us not to do?
Hire a new one.
As in the case of Dr. Ablow.
Well, and that's the key. I think we've become very sensitive in our culture today. And, when you look at Congress, they're supposed to almost be like the parents in the room. And if they're acting like this, then, of course, that's wise society. Maybe they've been watching The Real World too much or Jersey Shore and they're looking for their own reality show. I don't know. But I think this time, even having any sort of this conversation, if somebody makes an offhand comment about your weight in the media, oh, well, cry about it on your own. But don't sit there and make that the issue.
Well, but Tom, isn't it one thing for men to make a comment about another guy's weight? People do pick on the governor of New Jersey quite a bit about his weight. But, I mean, didn't your parents teach you don't say something, you don't ask a lady how old she is, and you never comment on her weight?
Well, look, I mean, I have a couple of thoughts on this whole thing. First of all, it's inappropriate. If I comment on my wife's weight, I'd have a knife in my neck. Number two is that who are the Democratic senators who commented on Kirsten Gillibrand's weight? Because I can clearly tell you that if these were Republican senators, they'd be named first and foremost in some book.
Well, did she ever say if they were Democrats or Republicans?
No, she hasn't named them, which says to me that if they were Republicans, they would have been named by now. And quite frankly, if you have fellow senators who use this type of language and are commenting on a female's weight, shouldn't you out them? I mean, you should tell us who they are. But there is a little bit of a double standard here because unfortunately, we have no problem talking about Chris Christie's weight for the last 5 years. So my point is that they're inappropriate comments. I'd like to know who the senators are who made these stupid comments. And we should have a level playing field when we're talking about it, and we should never talk about somebody's weight.
I would disclose who the senators are, but we're out of time. So I'm just going to wrap up by saying, Scottie, I got something to say about you. You look great. You always do. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. Coming up next, we're going to talk a little bit more about the latest terror threat and response from American Muslims about the ISIS attacks in Iraq. We're going to be joined by Dr. M. Zuhdi Jasser and Dean Obadallah. But first, this hour's American Moment takes a look back at the surrender of General Cornwallis.
Exactly 6 years and 6 months after the first shots of the Revolutionary War were fired at Lexington and Concord, General George Washington had spent most of the war evading fixed battles against the superior armed British forces. But Providence intervened. Lieutenant General Lord Cornwallis, commander of British forces in Virginia and second in command of all British forces in the American colonies, had moved into a trap, setting up camp in Yorktown. Located on a peninsula and facing the York River, Cornwallis was easily encircled by Continental Army troops on one side and a powerful French fleet on another. On October 6th, Washington's army, now reinforced with 5,500 French troops, were making preparations for their planned assault on the 9th. At the same time, a French fleet, numbering 28 ships of the line, had prevented any chance of a British escape by water. By mid-month, the British were cut off from their supply lines, denying them much-needed food and ammunition. With his forces suffering heavy casualties from Washington's continual artillery bombardment, and knowing his reinforcements were still weeks away, Lord Cornwallis did the unthinkable. He surrendered his forces to what had been called a band of rabble, effectively ending America's war for independence. The date was the 19th of October, 1781. With the signing of the Treaty of Paris in 1783, the war officially came to a close, with America's sovereignty secured and its territories bordered by Canada to the north, Florida to the south, and the Mississippi River to the east. For Newsmax TV, I'm Bill Curtis, and this is an American Moment.